John was on his way back home from university, and it was late at night when he completed his school activities. Despite knowing it would be difficult to find transportation at such a late hour, he decided to try his luck with commuting. At 10 p.m., he managed to board an empty bus where he easily found a seat. Feeling drowsy during the ride, John took a nap, only waking up briefly to check if he was close to his stop. The darkness and stillness of the night made it difficult to see anything outside, so he shifted his gaze to the front mirror of the bus. To his surprise, he noticed another passenger, a woman sitting at the back of the bus. Initially thinking he had missed her when he boarded because she was sitting in the corner, he brushed it off and fell asleep again. After a few minutes, he looked around again and saw the woman already standing, assuming she was about to leave the bus. Concerned, he informed the driver that the woman might need to get off soon. However, the driver appeared confused and replied, "There are no other passengers here except for you." John was taken aback by the driver's response and pointed towards the front mirror, saying, "Look, someone is there." However, when he checked the mirror again, the woman had disappeared. He suddenly became frightened by what he saw and informed the driver that he truly saw something inside the bus. However, the driver insisted that he was the only passenger on board and that there was no one else. Filled with fear, he continued to contemplate what he had witnessed even after reaching home, vowing never to come home late or ride a bus alone again. Joey consistently arrives home late at night due to his night shift work. Most of the time he finds himself alone in the office because his boss requires him to work overtime, recognizing him as the most dedicated employee. One night, while engrossed in his work, Joey unintentionally fell asleep at his desk, resting his head on it. As usual, he found himself left behind in the office, with his colleagues having gone home early. Gradually, he regained consciousness upon hearing someone using another desk in the office. He hesitated to confirm if he had heard correctly, or if he had simply awakened abruptly. His anxiety subsided momentarily, as he no longer heard any movement from the other table. He closed his eyes once again, attempting to resume his sleep. However, before his sleep could deepen, he heard an eerie sound emanating from that direction again. This time, what he heard was even more unsettling. Each keystroke on the computer keyboard. He was so startled that he couldn't even turn towards the other table. Confusion engulfed him, since he was the sole occupant of the office, his colleagues having left early, and the security guard stationed outside. Sweat dripped from his forehead, yet his body felt cold. The keystrokes suddenly stopped, leaving him in silence. In the absence of any sound, he glanced at the clock and realized it was almost dawn. Consequently, he swiftly turned away from the scene and rose from his seat. Observing the other table, it became evident that he was the only presence there. Curiosity compelled him to investigate the workspace, where he discovered that the computer outlets and other equipment had been unplugged. Hastily, he left the office, fervently praying. Initially, he believed it was a mere illusion of what he had heard and experienced. However, upon exiting the office, he came to the realization that it was not a dream, but a genuine occurrence. The student excursion took place on November 21st, 2022, providing the students with their inaugural trip outside of school for educational purposes. The students surrendered their phones to the school's dean, eliminating any potential distractions and creating a completely disconnected environment. They were provided with 2 rooms, with one designated for girls and the other for boys. However, nothing significant happened, except for a few individuals sensing a weird atmosphere throughout the entire location. During a particular evening, the girls gathered in their room, seeking amusement, exchanging laughter-filled conversations, and discreetly evading the dean's notice. However, their enjoyment was abruptly interrupted when someone aggressively knocked on their door. When the girls heard the knocks, they ceased their laughter and conversations. They believed it was the dean, so they chose not to open the door and instead pretended to be asleep. They believed that the knocks would stop after a prolonged period of silence, but to their surprise, the knocking resumed. This time, the knocks grew more forceful and intense, causing a disturbance for them. They made an attempt to open the door, but one of the girls in their room proposed against it, speculating that it could potentially be the dean who was just mad. One of the girls also voiced her doubts, questioning the possibility of it being the dean. She pointed out that the dean had already completed room checks earlier, and since it was already 2 a.m., she presumed that the dean was asleep. If it were indeed the dean, she reasoned, he would simply open the door to inspect them instead of resorting to weird knocking sounds. They attempted to ignore the knocking and decided to go to sleep. In the early morning, the girls engaged in conversations with boys and recounted the events of the previous night. As they shared their story, the girls began to suspect that the boys might have been the ones responsible for the knocking sounds outside their door, playing a prank on them. However, the boys denied any involvement in the knocking incident. The girls started to believe their denial when the dean addressed everyone and warned that anyone who attempted to defy the excursion rules would face the same punishment as the previous night. The dean emphasized that he had stayed with the boys overnight to supervise them and ensure they learned their lesson, preventing any future mistakes. The girls exchanged bewildered glances, questioning how it could have been the dean or any of the boys responsible for the knocking sounds if they were all together the previous night, and the dean was present throughout as a form of punishment. It seemed highly unlikely that any of them could have been involved in the incident. Following several days, the student excursion eventually concluded, and numerous occurrences took place throughout that period. Alongside the knocking incidents, the students claim to have encountered strange phenomena during their various activities, while sleeping and while exploring specific areas within their location. It appeared that they were not the only ones present in that place. One particular day, they were heading back home, traveling on the bus. The student excursion consisted of a total of 24 participants, with 15 girls and 9 boys. However, upon returning home and reviewing the pictures and videos on one student's phone, they made an intriguing discovery. In a video captured during their bus trip, they noticed that the group of 9 boys had seemingly become 10, leaving them perplexed and unable to comprehend the extra person in the footage. They meticulously reviewed the video numerous times, completely taken aback by the realization that an additional person had indeed joined them on their bus ride. This person was unfamiliar to them, and what troubled them even more was the fact that they had no recollection of seeing this individual aboard the bus during their trip. Their fear escalated significantly as they witnessed the entity, completely faceless, and then quietly taking a seat among the boys at the back, with itself positioned in the middle. Even at this moment, they remain oblivious to the identity of the entity that joined them as they return from their excursion location. What are your thoughts on the entity? Do you believe that it had a specific purpose for accompanying them? What caused it to abruptly appear on the screen? Was the entity disturbed by their presence?